I hope you enjoy the story I'm going to tell you today. It's not my story, but it was sent in by one of our subscribers, and it comes from someone who wishes to remain anonymous. All I know is that he's from Brazil, so let's get into it. It all started when my wife and I moved into our new home in late 2021. I found a really nice house with a large garden. We had the entire backyard to ourselves, and it was fully fenced in. We were ecstatic about moving in because we had been looking for a house for months, and this one was perfect. We got it for a good price, and we couldn't wait to start living there. On the first night, I couldn't sleep because the bed was uncomfortable, so I decided to go sit out in the backyard in a chair until I felt sleepy. As soon as I stepped outside, though, I noticed that the wall at the back of the property was too tall, and I could see some houses on the other side. The gardens around me weren't as big as mine, and the fences were pretty close together. Since it was dark, I didn't think much of it. Just sat down in the chair and stared at the dark, empty space between the fences. After a few minutes, I started hearing what sounded like screams in the bushes. I didn't pay much attention at first, assuming that it was just some wild animals. But then I started to hear what sounded like whispers. They were too clear to be wildlife, and they seemed to be coming from the neighbor's yard. I strained to listen and heard two people whispering back and forth. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but it definitely sounded like they were speaking Portuguese, which is the language I speak at home. This piqued my interest, and I continued listening intently. They talked about all kinds of things, from the weather to politics. I only understood every other word because I hadn't been listening to Portuguese very much lately, but I got the general gist of what they were talking about. After about an hour, they started talking about me. Do you think he heard us? Probably doesn't understand what we're saying. Yeah, I don't think he does. Good. Then they went silent, and I waited to hear what else they would say. The next day I told my wife about what I had heard, and she thought it was very strange. But since nothing else happened, we both just forgot about it. A few days later, I went back out to the backyard to sit down and relax when I heard voices again. This time I strained to listen, and I caught a few words here and there. I heard them say my name. I knew what they were saying, but I couldn't believe it. They were talking about me in their native language, and now they knew I was there. I ran inside and locked the door, not knowing what to do. My wife and I tried to pretend that everything was fine, but we couldn't help but feel on edge. Every time we heard a noise outside, we assumed that it was them talking about us. We felt extremely violated and scared to go outside. We even considered selling the house, but we couldn't afford to do that, and we had already spent so much money renovating it. One day I was sitting outside when I heard them calling my name. One of the voices belonged to a woman, but the man said something along the lines of, "Don't call him. He knows we're here. He's probably scared." I started to feel bad because I had been sitting there listening to them for so long. Maybe I should have pretended not to hear them and gone inside. But then the woman said something along the lines of, "He can't hurt us. He'll never come out. Let's talk to him anyway. Or maybe we'll talk to him anyway." I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Did they really think I wouldn't come outside? What did they want from me? Then the voice said, "Hey, are you there?" I froze. How did they know I was there? Was I being paranoid, or were they really trying to contact me? I wanted to yell and scream, but I couldn't make a sound. I was completely frozen in place, staring at the fence between our properties. "Hello? Are you there?" The woman called out again. Still no reply from me. I was so scared. I took a deep breath and tried to calm myself down. There was no way they could see me because of the plants that grew between the fences. Even if they could see me, they still wouldn't be able to make out my features. Just as I began to calm down, I heard the man's voice say, "Let's go see him." I screamed and ran inside. My wife and I decided to install cameras all around the house, and we placed one right by the back door. On the monitor, I saw a man and a woman standing on the other side of the fence. They looked normal, except for the fact that their faces were pale and their eyes were black. I went outside and yelled at them to leave, but they didn't respond. Instead, they smiled at each other and started talking. I kept yelling at them to leave, but they just laughed. It was the most terrifying thing I had ever experienced. Then the woman turned toward me and started speaking. She said something along the lines of, "Why are you so scared? You shouldn't be. We're your neighbors. We're here to help you." Then the man added, "You seem tense. Come outside and relax. You can talk to us." At this point, I was terrified. I went inside and locked the doors. And whenever I went outside, I was prepared to run back inside. I never thought that anyone could be so creepy, and I was afraid of what they might do. A few weeks later, I was sitting outside when I heard the woman's voice. "Hi, are you there?" I froze. They were calling me again. This time I decided to try and reason with them. I started speaking in Portuguese and asked them why they wouldn't leave me alone. I told them that I wanted them to stay away from me and that I would call the police if they did. "And why would you do that? We're just being friendly. Why are you so mean to us?" "Don't you want to make friends?" the woman replied. I could tell that she was getting angry, but I didn't care. At this point, I was happy to have an enemy rather than a friend. "If you won't leave me alone, then I will call the police. I want you to stay away from me." I shouted at them. The woman started screaming. "Good luck with that, you idiot. No one can hear you. You're all alone. Why don't you just accept that we're your friends?" I didn't answer. I was stunned by what she had said. Could she be right? Was I really all alone? I looked around and realized that I didn't know any of my neighbors. I'd only been there a few months, and I hadn't made any friends yet. Maybe the woman was right. Maybe I was being too mean to her. As I looked at her, I started to feel a sense of familiarity. It was like I had seen her before, but I couldn't remember where. Then it hit me. She looked exactly like the woman who had spoken to me in my dream. The same pale skin, the same black eyes. But how was that possible? The woman continued to stare at me, and I could see a smile slowly spreading across her face. It was then that I realized that the woman in my dream was not just a figment of my imagination. She was real. And in that moment, I knew that she had come to take me away from this world. And that is where our story ends. If you liked this video, please leave a like and subscribe.